Hello, my name is Marsha Talley. I am the candidate. I am a teacher and an intern administrator at MacArthur High School in Irving, Texas. And there, our campus consists of 2,813 students. 56% of our students are Hispanic. We have 23% African American, 12% white, 5% Asian, 1% American Indian, less than a percent Pacific Islander, and 2% of two or more races. The socioeconomic makeup of our campus consists of 61% economically disadvantaged students. 39% of our students have non-educational disadvantages, and 16% are English language learners, or ELLs. 3% have disciplinary placement issues, and 64% of our student body is at risk. Our student academic concern centers predominantly around literacy because of our student body, because of the socioeconomic makeup. We would like to focus more on reading and comprehension itself. And so this year our focus was on building on vocabulary to help with this issue. The field activity involved 3 teachers. They were from the CTE department and from the English department, and we also had an instructional paraprofessional from the special ed department as well. And the goal was to discuss the effectiveness of professional development. How effective is professional development in helping teachers to grow? Because ultimately when we do professional development, it is so that we can take those strategies and those interventions and best practices back to the classroom for our students. And the rationale behind this was to use what we already know from data analysis, what we already know from our demographics, to help motivate our teachers with the proper knowledge and skills and interventions that they need to work best for their students. My mentor and I discussed pretty much the demographics. We looked over our data and what we would need to discuss in the meeting. And so we formulated these 8 questions that we thought would be best for the discussion. And the meeting was held in the library, and we covered the norms, we covered the discussion, and the paper was provided, an outline of that was provided for our teachers. And yes, a survey was given at the end of the discussion to evaluate how effective the meeting actually was, or the focus group was. All right, and that's that. Okay, this one has to be 7 minutes. Hi again, this is Marsha Talley. I am the candidate, and this is my post-activity reflection. So we had our focus group where it was consisted of 4 individuals, 3 of which, of whom were teachers from the CTE department and from our English department. And we also had a professional, let's start that over. All right, so this is Marsha Talley. This is my post-activity reflection. I am the candidate. Marsha. Lord, okay. Let's just do it. Let's do it. This is Marsha Talley. I am the candidate, and this is my post-activity reflection. So we had a focus group that consisted of 4 individuals. 3 were teachers, and 1 was an instructional paraprofessional. And so we had an outline of the agenda beforehand with 8 questions for all the guests to kind of look over. And the guests kind of chose 2 questions that they thought they wanted to answer.
District offers, since we're able to pick classes.
So you guys have
Yes.
2 questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can do 6 and 8.
Okay.
I can do 1 and 2.
Cool beans.
I'm still on number 3. My IEP says I get extended time to read these questions.
Sir. I'm gonna leave that there just because I like it.
I feel like it needs a name.
Plant.
So boring though. Benny. Benny, pretty good.
Okay, Benny. Which one are you going with?
4 and
Which
5?
2? Okay, cool beans. All right, so I'm going to begin. I'm going to put Benny over there. And so the purpose of this meeting is just basically to look at how professional development, how effective is it actually for teachers and for instructional staff? How does it affect our teaching? And how does it affect our relationships with each other and our students? Because ultimately, professional development should relate to how we perform in the classroom. So that's what that's going to be about. And with quick rundown of the norms and expectation, this meeting is going to be like 35 minutes. So someone with a timer, she's really good at time, I know it. We're obviously we know how to talk professionally. I want you guys to be as candid as possible. And be as honest as possible.
You sure about that?
No
Yes,
problem.
I do. However, we are going to continue to use professional language in everything we do. We're not talking over each other. And I would like, even when you answer your questions, after they answer their questions, for you to give feedback on that so that we can like have a nice round conversation. Cool? Any questions? All right. So just a quick view of the questions there. We're going to start with question 1. What is the most powerful or impactful professional development activity you've experienced?
I believe this was about 3 years ago. I was working at a different school. A lot of us gathered in the cafeteria, and there was just so many activities going on. We had to split up in groups, and each group had a family. That family, and so we had to find a way to maintain the family together, but every time it was kind of like Monopoly. Every time we would get a card, there was a different situation, real life situation that was going on, and we had to find a way to keep the family together, working, and the family was usually made up of always the 1 student and 1 parent. There was a situation where there was a homeless student, and I think this made a big impact on me because at the end of the activity, it allowed me to see that our students are not all the same. They all come from different backgrounds, and sometimes they come here and we think that everything's fine, and we really don't know that there's certain situations, like they might be homeless, they didn't eat over the night, they might be in an abusive environment, and so when they come to school, they're kind of hoping that would be a home, that they can come and feel comfortable, and the way we approach them can affect them in a good way or negatively.
So for that professional development, what made it stick out in your mind after 3 years? Like what was it, the group activity itself, or what was it that just left that mark on you?
I think it was the group activity because each teacher, it was like composed about maybe like about 4 or 5 teachers. Each one of them had their part, and just to be able to play those roles and be in those shoes and to see this is what our students are really going through. This is something that we don't often think when they're having a bad day, and when we come back and we tell them, why are you misbehaving? Why are you cussing at me? Why are you doing all these things? But we don't often take the time to really see that might be a big reason why
Just a
their
bigger
attitude.
picture.
It's been very helpful for me this year, coming from a smaller campus to a regular campus, to think about the fact that, okay, you're not doing this just because it's me, you're doing this, there's something behind it,
Right.
which makes me a little more sympathetic and a lot more patient.
That is strong, to realize that it's not personal.
Which is hard
there's a
for
big-
me.
Yeah.
Really, really hard for me, but.
Yeah, I understand. It takes a while to like get over that, it being
Yeah.
personal.
Mhm.
Why was it powerful and meaningful to you? I think we kind of addressed that, and
Right.
that's the part about, you know, you feeling that you are in that shoe.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Did someone else have number 2? Okay. How effective are campus professional development opportunities?
Specifically campus or district?
I think campus, so you know when we have, well, we can talk about both, because we don't have very many on our campus.
Like at the beginning of the year.
The beginning of the year, we have
Yeah,
some, but,
that's-
I mean, honestly, talk about that.
That's-
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's what I really think of.
Wasting my time.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
I mean-
How do you, I mean, yeah,
I mean,
why
well,
do you think
this is my second year, and I just think we do the same. It's like literally the same classes every time, and most people have already done it, so they're like tuning it out. Like it's just, I think it would be better served in a different way, like doing a different class. So every year you're like, oh my god, it's the same PowerPoint I did last year, and
Well,
I don't know. It's just like, why do you have to do the same thing over and over again?
Some of that is mandated
Right.
by the state. So, you know, your non-traditional students and for CTE, non-traditional students and safety and all those things have to be done. So that's just to check a box. But as far as district, since I have districts that I can compare, I do appreciate that in Irving, I can do only CTE-related professional development at the beginning of the school year.
Mhm.
Where I have some that are mandated that I have to take and they will be boring, but I also have some that if I'm a new DECA sponsor, I can go and learn from a, you know, veteran DECA sponsor how to make my club successful this school year. And whereas in other districts, you just go with your campus and you do whatever the thing is for this year. Maybe we're focusing on literacy or we're focusing on math, so we're gonna beat this into all of your heads. When, you know, from my classroom, I can support those subjects,
Right.
but only to an extent.
Like this year, it was vocabulary for our campus.
Mm-hmm.
And before we proceed any further, I feel like that was the intro, but we didn't introduce ourselves. So let's do that. I'm Marsha Talley, and I am the candidate. And
Calvin Jordan, I'm a business teacher at MacArthur High School.
Shanna Brady, also business teacher.
Elizabeth Ontiveros, I am a SPED inclusion aide.
Angela Foster, 9th grade English.
so far, we've basically covered like the most impactful. Does anybody else have one that is like stand out to them? Like, it's there.
I've had a couple, and what I remember of both of them is that it really didn't have anything to do with strategies or best practices. It was, I think it's Adolph Brown and Ron Clark, and it's all about, you know, making you aware of just what she was saying. Students, like Adolph came in and he was dressed like a student and he acted a fool in the hallways before our meeting started, and then he came out and everybody saw that little kid that was acting a fool, and oh no, this is Dr. Adolph Brown that was out here doing that. And he, you know, let the campus know, this is what I observed. You know, when you thought I was this, you treated me a certain way.
That is very interesting, very intriguing.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's really just about the presentation and the speaker. Like, that changes everything. The way you,
It can.
it doesn't matter what topic it is. If you have a good presenter and they know how to engage you
Right.
and also follow the objectives, then, you know, clearly it's gonna be more memorable and you're not gonna be bored.
And like you just said, it wasn't about best practices and
Right.
strategies explicitly, but he was actually teaching you best practices and strategies by doing it. Like
Right.
he became the best practice or strategy. And so it's the same thing with you, like it's when you're hands-on and you're in it, it's not just
Yes.
sitting there and doing a
Right.
PowerPoint presentation. Did you have one that like stuck out in your head?
I mean, this is only my second year, so it's hard for me to say, but last year when I was at Cardwell, we did a book study. And I didn't love reading nonfiction, but it was kind of an eye-opening book, that reminded me, oh, okay, this is kind of who you are as a person. Remember that your students are kind of different. It was Carol Dweck, something about mindset matters, mindset something. But it was just a good reminder that, you know, our kids, my kids, I teach lower kids, so they often think they're dumb, and they're not, and so it's a case of getting them past that. And it helped remind me to be mindful of the words I choose. I like to think that I choose my words wisely, but we often end up choosing words that we don't even realize are kind of, not really derogatory isn't the right word, but just sort of kind of negative.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Being conscious about what we're saying and what we're doing. Because we leave these professional development and we are really truly convicted. And then we get to in our classrooms and there is that child acting the absolute fool and you just want to, you know. Okay, so are there adequate opportunities provided for professional development? So thinking about our district and our campus, do you think we have enough?
I feel like we could have used some more this year.
Do we all agree with that? Some more of what? Like,
Well,
Just
what?
kind of in general, I guess in comparison again to last year, I felt like there were more opportunities on campus after school. That way I didn't have to utilize all of a Saturday, or half a Saturday, or get up on a Saturday.
You don't like Saturday
No,
professional development?
no.
Okay.
No.
Who likes?
the way it's designed though, you can get your professional development, you know, online and all, you know, in this day and age, there's it's a lot out there
Yes,
to get
yes.
your professional
Yes,
development.
yes.
I was doing a new course this year, so mine was done in Chicago in July. So when we started school, I was basically done with professional development. And, I wasn't paying any attention to any emails about professional development. I was done.
Yeah, this year I was way over my
Yes,
limit because
yes.
I did one that was like 20-something credits and by itself. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of credits this year that will not roll over
Yeah.
to next year.
But as far as the campus, I do understand what she's saying, that, there wasn't a whole lot that came out about, professional development, here at school before or after. I do remember a few things, but if I was in need of professional development hours, I wouldn't have been, dependent on the campus to meet that goal.
I know for the English department anyway, our team lead wanted she asked, like, what do we need more of? And so those types of questions were asked, and I think it was in an effort to provide some type of PD that we needed. So if you were to think about we all have different departments, so all of us have different needs, from CTE to our core subjects to instructional paraprofessional. So we all have different types of needs, but if you were to think of one thing that united us as a campus and we had to be trained on that, what would that be? Why do y'all do that all the time?
That's kind of a hard question.
I have to say, coming from an ELAR standpoint and witnessing first year high school testers, anything we can do to improve literacy. I definitely have, I take issue with the way we do a few things when it comes to literacy in the district, but that's neither here nor there.
But it is here and
Well,
there, actually.
Well, I meant here, right. But I really think there's got to be more we can do to get our kids invested in themselves, and that's where for me, that's where the issue was, is getting kids invested in themselves and getting them to realize that the currency, as it were, is reading.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the year, they had, I think it was Ms. Bynum that came over and done the thing on annotating
Right.
your text and the little charts that they gave us, which
Yeah.
I appreciate because I am not an English teacher.
Right,
You know,
right,
so
right.
that, while, if I taught English, I may have looked at it like, no, we can do better, but
Right.
if you're asking me to aid an English
Right,
teacher,
right.
that was beneficial in giving me something that I could then turn around and give to my class, and at the very least,
At the
I can
very
provide
least.
them with the text and say, I need you to annotate this and I need you to summarize it.
Right,
So
yeah.
speaking from that standpoint, the campus, well, it was a district person that came to the campus, but, they did at least provide, me, a English teacher, some
Right.
resources to use in my classroom.
So what it, go ahead, Laura.
No, you were gonna ask them.
So it's what I'm hearing, what do we call the vertical alignment, and somewhat horizontal alignment, where we're having those conversations cross corridor, where we are saying, I do need your help, and we do know, and I do agree with you. Coming from that core English background, I do agree with you. We do need to do more for literacy. And I hear you saying, well, actually, I don't really know anything about this part, but you giving me this professional development to assist you helps us all.
Right.
It's a big deal.
I think as a business teacher and just what I've seen, being out in the real world and knowing what is gonna be out there for the kids, I think all teachers should be doing more to get all of their work online. I don't think the kids, the fact that they're in 9th grade and I have to teach them how to navigate simple computer tasks, and I have seniors that don't know how to do this, that are supposed to be going to college, is just unacceptable.
Well,
It's unacceptable, and every teacher, one, it's gonna save the school money because you're not gonna be using less paper that they can use to spend on more important things than paper that's killing the environment. It's a whole other topic altogether. Anyway, but these kids need, everything in real life is done on the computer.
So
You pay online, you pay your bills online, you apply for loans, you do everything. You don't hand write anything except maybe a thank you note. Like, why are these kids like not typing? Why don't they know how to type? Why don't they know how to turn stuff in on Google? We're setting them up for failure. They're not gonna be college ready. Nobody writes anything down. I don't care if it's star or whatever. Like, it needs to be online, and they're gonna save on ink, they're gonna save on paper. It's a win for the kids, it's a win for the teachers, because there's lots of automated grading and stuff that goes along with that. And it's a win for the school, because I just don't understand why this is a thing.
I hear you, coming from the literacy part though, we understand, may or may not agree, why we need the paper pen. There is a connection between, for example, cursive writing that I am glad they're into bringing back, because research has said there's some type of connection to that. But I do agree. What I'm hearing is education and our professional development needs to be relevant. So it needs to be relevant to what is happening in current affairs, what's happening now, how we do things, because our world is changing. So do you think we have enough professional development that deals with how to, like online programs that have that automation or automated grading that teachers can buy into already? Do we have those kind of trainings available?
There's a few, I don't think they're like super in depth,
That has happened here on campus?
I think that, I can't think of her name right now, that it says next door,
Let's
she's
just,
Disler, she's done a few, but, I know they have the Google Classroom online, but not like live.
Right.
But-
So you would like to see more professional development?
Not really for me, but I think other teachers
Oh, yeah.
should know how to do it, because one, it's gonna save you time,
Right.
Because you can have it automatically graded, you can download it into a CVS, and then you can upload it into the grade book.
And this is where I think, again, that alignments, when we have these conversations across the corridor, and you say, well, here is my input, because as much as you are like, they're not ready for
They're not.
typing, we're like,
Well, write
they're
it
not
down.
right, they're not ready.
They can't even write.
Make them write it, and
Yeah.
then make them type it after they've
Yeah,
written it.
Absolutely.
They have to know how to type. I graded
Absolutely.
30 essays last week, and two of the essays out of all the 30 were capitalizing it. They don't capitalize their I's. They don't know MLA or AMA format. How are they going to go to college and turn in anything? They won't be able to do anything in college without knowing this. Whether they can write a paper or not, if they can't use the computer, they're still going to fail.
So then, it comes back to this idea that yes, we have these amazing training that get us in touch with the student and perhaps their background, but are we missing out on this link that somehow gets us from their background to you acquiring the skills that you need to be competitive in this
I
world?
mean, they won't even be able to get a job without knowing how to do this.
Yeah.
Every job wants you to be able to do these things, and if they don't know how to do it, they're not going to get a job.
Well,
But we would have to also at the same time build an app that would kind of block certain websites.
So that's the other thing, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, they've already got a lot of this stuff.
Is that what you were going to talk
yeah,
about?
that's part of it, but I was gonna actually say that, I think part of our issue lies in the fact that we teach to a test. I don't get to teach my kids how to think. I have to teach them how to pass STAR, and STAR is garbage.
I mean,
On
don't
that.
even get me started on all that nonsense.
Well, we won't get started on that. Let's move on.
Not to get you started, but I mean, I think that's where the problem
It's
starts.
during no time.
So, when we talk about professional development, then even with that in our mindset, in our consciousness, and saying, well, we know that there is a state assessment, and we know that we have to make all these adjustments for the state assessment. In what area is professional development most beneficial then?
I have to say, I've attended a larger than I realized number of AVID trainings, and that's been kind of helpful, just seeing what my kids are doing in a class that's specifically designed to teach them how to eventually be successful in school and college, when that's not something they picked up from their parents, which, I mean, I didn't pick that up from my mom, and my mom was a college graduate, so, yeah. I like the fact that we have an array of different things. I don't know that it's necessarily always the most needed things. I think every PD I've attended this year outside of school has been AVID, because that was what was available.
Have you guys had AVID training?
No.
Do you think that's one of the trainings, because I know it's like a particular group of students, do you think that is a training that the rest of the campus could benefit from?
Some of them, yes, like the Wicker strategies, kind of learning how to implement those better, because when I first heard of Wicker, I didn't know what anybody was talking about. Again, I'm like you, I came from the corporate world, and so all the education terminology, some of it still just doesn't quite register with me yet.
I would agree with that.
But I think AVID would be helpful, at least just sort of a overview of what it is, why it's important, even though the kids don't like it. But.
So that's another thing. Oh,
I would like to add to that. I come from an ESL background too, at the other school where I used to work. We developed a PD opportunity for teachers to go after school, where our newcomers, our ESL students, would teach the teachers Spanish. So, because sometimes, and I've seen this recently where they pull me to translate, or a teacher doesn't really know how to communicate, we would try to teach them sort of basic Spanish, where both would benefit from each other, the students and the teachers. And that really helped, and it made a bond where the students will walk around and teachers that they didn't know, they will conversate and they will get to know each other. So they will see each other in the hall and practice their Spanish.
I love that,
I think that's a
actually.
good idea.
That's a really good idea, to have the students teach. I would actually like to see a professional development where we have the students do that. That's
Right.
awesome.
I know last year we had sign language PD, where
Right.
you could learn sign language. I would love a refresher on Spanish. I understand very, very little,
Right.
enough that some of my kids ask me questions, and again, that's something that's further grown our bond, is
Right.
them asking me questions in Spanish and me understanding it.
I love
And that's
that.
where the idea came from, because at my other school, sign language was a PD class that they could go to after school. So we worked a lot with our ESL kids who were having a difficult time with those kids trying to bond with the teachers after they would leave ESL and try to go on into the general ed classes. They would be kind of timid to come to the teachers. So it really helped out both. And that's something, as a paraprofessional, that I've learned all my 6 years of experience, that hopefully once I start teaching next year, hopefully I'll be here, and I do want to start something like that. Just because I think the kids will and the teachers will benefit more from it.
I like it too, because just if we, outside of just the language, but if we are pulling the students as experts
Yes.
in, because there are students who are definitely experts in Spanish. They are proficient in it, and we need translators. So if we could use them, that would be awesome.
And it works, because my first year here, I think most of y'all, some of y'all know this, but I was the perm sub for like a
Right.
whole semester for IPC. And I had classes where there might have been like 4 kids that spoke English. So I wanted to learn Spanish anyway. And I knew enough, because of my old job, to be able to communicate a little bit, but I learned a whole lot, because I would actually try and talk to them. You know what I mean? Like, I would get Google Classroom and try and say stuff, and they found that quite hilarious. But they really appreciated that I was trying to talk to them.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And they still, like, I haven't had a lot of those kids since then, but they still remember me, and they're always waving at me in the hall, even, a couple of years later. Like, we did connect, I was able to connect with them, even though I didn't speak a whole lot of Spanish, but I was able to, like, show them that I did care and I wanted to learn, and it wasn't just up to them to, like, have to learn.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
So far, it sounds like PD can look different and should look different, and it shouldn't just be a presenter up there just running off at the mouth, but having activities, role playing, having it student-led can be super beneficial. And also because there are people coming in from different corporations or backgrounds, the lingo is different, so it's giving people a chance to get caught up with the education culture and things like that.
One thing I like about the AVID PDs is that it's always a mixed group of people. So last weekend I sat at a table with another English teacher, a kindergarten teacher, and 2 science teachers. So it was nice to
Sweet.
walk away learning how somebody else uses a graphic organizer, because it's not something I think of, because science is a lot more concrete than literature.
Yes, right. So so the benefits are there. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
So what areas do you think professional development is inadequate?
well, I already went over that. 'Cause I think
Yeah.
there should be, I think that they're not, maybe it's not quite innovative enough. I think, we live in a world where there's so many, because I do a lot of research trying, I like to do things different than everybody. Like, if I'm given a lesson plan, I'm gonna go find a different way to do it, because that's just who I am.
Just how I do it.
Because I'm like, this is boring. Like, if I'm bored, they're bored. That's what I tell them. So I'm always trying to find, like, new software or new apps or new things that are more engaging. And I think and I do that because I like doing stuff like that. Not all teachers want to do
Right.
that, okay? Like, they're not
Right.
into, like, diving down a rabbit hole of, like, different kinds of apps you can use with your students.
Right.
Okay, but I think if there was some that were chosen that would help the kids interact, and sometimes I use the cell phone, like they download the app and there's things we can do, and they love that kind of stuff. or teaching your lesson on, I'm gonna do it this summer on YouTube. I'm gonna like film myself and make like funny YouTube videos and flip the classroom. So I'm gonna like make a YouTube video that, you know, and edit it, make it all cool, like they like to watch. Like if they won't come to them, you go. If they won't come to you, you go to them.
Right.
Right? So I'm gonna make a few of those where it's called flipping the classroom, where you make them watch it at home, and then when they come to class, we have such short time periods, then they do all of their, they will have watched it at night, so it's, you know, and then they'll do a lesson on it after what they learned. So I'm giving them the lesson that they get to watch on YouTube, because they're gonna do that anyway. And then they're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk about it, have any questions, make sure they check for understanding, and then we'll do some kind of activity that goes along with it.
And you're gonna do a PD on that.
I am. I guess
Because that, I mean, honestly,
but
that's
things like that is gonna make the
Yeah.
kids more excited instead of the teacher just like go to them. But they love
I
watching
love that
YouTube.
idea. Yeah.
Okay, well let's take the lesson to YouTube and then let's do something fun in class instead of sitting up there looking at a PowerPoint.
And to piggyback off of that, I would say that's where professional development is inadequate, because in the classroom, there's an expectation that you teach the kids the way they need to be taught. I mean, there's an understanding that everybody learns differently, and we're expected to reach all those different learning styles.
Yeah.
But
But
professional development generally doesn't do that.
right, absolutely.
Generally,
Absolutely.
they, you know, it's a sit and get format. You know, I've been to a few, and even in this district, where they model what they want to see in the classroom. And, you know, you walk away, it's like, okay, I've sat through it, you've taught me, now I can do it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
Generally, it's, you know, I'm gonna give you this information, and then you go take it and use it.
Yeah, because it's, you know, we go to professional development where they may talk about this,
Mhm.
but really and truly the way you would do that is do it,
Mhm.
where we're,
Show them how
you're
to use
showing it
film
and not
video
telling
and
it.
show them how to use
Yeah.
the editing and how to add, you
Yeah,
know, a
you're actually
definition on
showing
the
it.
video
Yeah.
as you're talking. Like, show them how to make a professional YouTube video and create your channel. Like, walk them through it, do it, get them all set up so that they're set up now. They've made a video. They have this already. They already have the, you know, YouTube account or whatever. So now they're already ready to go. They can go in there and
I like
do it.
What you're talking about is extremely time consuming.
It is.
Especially if you teach 4 different classes.
Right, it is extremely time, and that's the other thing, that is definitely something I like professional development to think about, and I think that's where they're inadequate. In this, they do not consider that teachers do have multiple prep periods that are lessons they have to prep for.
And the life.
And a life outside of school in a short amount of time. And so sometimes you will get to those professional development. It's amazing, but unless you can show us how to and make that effective, most people are gonna hear you and leave and go back right
What if
to
you
what
started a
they're doing.
database where you guys, you know, you make a video on one subject and then you give other teachers access to it. That
Yeah.
way you guys, everybody can share, and that way, you know, you make a couple, or get with your department, say, these are the things we would like to make videos on, and over, you know, every year, it would be like build up over time.
Yes, so you're
You know what I'm
using
saying?
like
So
your
then-
PLC time to like maybe incorporate some of that professional development in the PLC
So then you can
time.
always, you know, have this database and go, okay, now we have one that covers like all the teachers. And you could share them throughout your department, and then new teachers could come in and use them if they wanted, or they could make their own.
I mean,
Alright.
I've done it before, that's why I say I know.
Oh, I know how, I know
And
I do it.
the kids do like them, because when I was on the testing committee, I was absent a lot from my class, and that's what I would do. They would have a video, and there wouldn't be any excuses, but let a day go by and I didn't make that video, they let you know about it.
Yeah, real quick.
Yep.
So we're down to our last 3 minutes, and I think we talked about 7 and 8 already. But if we were to take a consensus, do you think the district, what they've offered, is it effective with the professional development that we've had, the opportunities? Do you think it's effective for growth of teachers and instructional professionals in the classroom?
I mean, I see.
Thumbs
Some of it,
up?
yes, some of
Some
it.
of it.
Yeah.
I can't just,
So that's the
Yes.
middle. That's
Yeah.
okay. And then the last one, do you like the liberty? So basically, we have a little freedom. We have online, we have Saturday school, Saturday after school, during our PLC times. Do you like that flexibility?
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't like Saturdays at all.
Yeah, I just don't want to do Saturdays. I will.
It'd be nice if
But
some of that
I-
L2I was online too. And we didn't-
How
that
did
would
you
be
feel about?
beautiful.
How do you feel about the LTI?
I
About
mean,
so Learn to Inspire is it's 2 days, 3 days.
I
during
think
the
it's
summer?
Usually 2 days.
During our summer
and then
months?
additional day where you're, at like the Urban Convention Center or, for the depth of knowledge is what we're
Right,
at
right,
this
the
year.
DOK.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
I sometimes,
See your time real quick.
I think sometimes that some of the folks we have at Learn to Inspire are a little too far removed from the classroom, and
Relevance again.
yeah, and I'm
Needs to
just
be
sitting there
relevant.
thinking, how long has it been? 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, this is only my second year, but that's insane. Really?
So it boils down to our professional development is definitely effective and beneficial and needed for the growth of teachers because we're all coming from different backgrounds and some type of way it brings us together. It gets us in touch with our students, but it also gives us best practices and strategies that we can use, and hopefully we'll get relevant information that can keep our students engaged and with it and learning the skills that they need for life, period. So that is it. You do have a survey to do at the end. And you can also rate how you feel this discussion went as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Good.
That I really liked definitely is getting strategies. So we know, we talk about what is positive about professional development. We talk about one of the things that makes a professional development effective is the delivery and the instructor themselves. So if you have an instructor that is just literally about standing there and talking the whole time, that is not as effective as if you have a professional development where they have activities in place and where they have role play in place, and there are things for for people, for the teachers to do. And so they liked the idea of collaborating, and more throughout the discussion I heard that the information had to be relevant. It was important for the information to be relevant to today. Some teachers felt like some of the information was outdated, or at least the person who was delivering the information was a little outdated. So they felt like at those times they shut down. They weren't as open to the information as times where they felt this information was colorful and relevant and applicable. And so they wanted to see more of that. I especially liked from the discussion there was this idea that we should bring the classroom to the students, since they use YouTube, since they use a lot of these different apps, that we can find a way to incorporate this into the learning. And that was phenomenal. That was a strategy I want to explore more and use in my own class. And even as an administrator, I would like to definitely encourage our teachers to incorporate technology in the way that is identifiable to our students, the ones that they're already using it, and creating a way so that our students find it accessible and relevant. Okay. I think what went well in this discussion was that everyone was absolutely engaged. Everyone was comfortable in what they were saying. They were comfortable with each other, and I don't feel like anyone felt like there weren't any tensions. I love that, and so I think that went very well. I think the order went well. We followed the outline and we went through it and we got done to a T. The only thing I would change, and this is coming from the feedback I got, they did tell me that I was an awesome facilitator. They loved that everything was engaging, the questions were relevant, and that everyone was engaged. But one thing we would change would be to include an administrator, an active administrator from our campus in the discussion so that they could hear some of the feedback. So the teachers want to be heard. They want the feedback to be heard. And so that's definitely something I would take as an administrator on my campus, is to ensure that teachers are involved in decision making. That one person said that they want to be involved. They want their voices to be heard. And I think that's very important as an administrator, to ensure that there are surveys that are sent out, but also that we utilize the information from the surveys. There weren't so much any surprising information from the discussion, as much as just very happy to receive some of the strategies and suggestions that were given in the discussion. Overall, this was an amazing experience for me. And as an administrator, as an instructional leader, my goal here is to definitely use the input of students and teachers to direct learning on my campus.